My name is Wanda Warner. I'm 29 years old, and just a week ago, I thought my life was finally aligning the way I'd always dreamed. For years, I pushed myself through late nights, endless code reviews, side projects that barely paid, and the quiet hope that all this grind would one day pay off. And then out of nowhere, it did. The call came on a rainy Thursday morning. A recruiter from one of the major tech companies in Silicon Valley. Not the giants everyone knows, but close enough. They wanted me as a senior software architect. Base salary of $195,000. Stock options. Signing bonus. Growth path that could lead me to principal engineer in just a few years. For a girl who grew up in a small Midwestern town, this was the kind of break that felt unreal, like someone else's story. I remember sitting there with the phone pressed to my ear, nodding so much my neck hurt even though they couldn't see me. My chest felt like it would burst open. After years of wondering if I was good enough, if I'd wasted my 20s chasing a mirage, suddenly there it was proof that it had all meant something. But if you think that moment was pure joy, you'd be wrong. Because I wasn't just Wanda ambitious software engineer. I was also Wanda girlfriend of Ethan 27 part-time. Social media manager for his buddy's boutique brand. We'd been together 4 years, lived together for 2. I thought we were building something, a future. When I got home that evening, I could barely contain myself. I dropped my bag by the door, nearly tripped over my own shoes, and blurted out, "Ethan, you're not going to believe this. I got the offer. They want me in California." I expected him to leap up from the couch to grin and wrap me in one of his bear hugs to say, "Wanda, I'm so proud of you." Instead, he didn't even put his phone down, just glanced at me, thumb still scrolling, and muttered, "That's nice, babe. When did you tell them no?" For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. I laughed, waiting for him to smile back to say he was joking. "What I haven't responded yet. I wanted to talk to you first." That's when he finally set his phone aside slowly, as if bracing himself to deal with a child's tantrum. His eyes narrowed in disbelief. "Wanda, you're not seriously considering moving across the country, are you?" Heat rushed up my neck. Why wouldn't I? This is huge. It's triple what I'm making now. It's everything I've worked for. Ethan leaned back, arms crossed, the picture of calm disapproval. Money isn't everything. I wanted to scream. Money wasn't everything. This from the man who insisted we eat out 4 nights a week, who whined. When I suggested skipping the newest gadget because we couldn't afford it, I tried to steady my voice. It's not just the salary, Ethan. It's the experience, the projects, the people I'll learn from. This could change everything for us. His lips tightened. For you, maybe. My life is here. My family, my friends, my gym, my everything. You can't expect me to abandon all that for some job. I swallowed hard, fighting the sting in my eyes. We could visit. It's only a 2-hour flight. We could try it for a year, see how it goes. I could go first, get settled, and you could join later. Or we keep the apartment here as a backup. We don't have to make it permanent right away. Every suggestion I offered, he shot down like clay pigeons in the air. Finally, Ethan stood up, pacing the room. His tone sharpened. "You need to turn down that promotion, Wanda. I'm not moving to California for your career. If you loved me, you wouldn't even consider it." I stared at him, my pulse pounding so loud it drowned the silence. I wanted to argue to make him see. But in that moment, all I saw was the man I thought I'd marry someday standing there with his arms crossed, daring me to choose. Him or me. Love or ambition. A cage or a horizon. My throat tightened. I would never force you to move. And Ethan smiled, actually smiled, as if he'd won. He pulled me into his arms and kissed my forehead. "Good. Then email them tomorrow. We'll be fine." I nodded against his chest, but my mind was already spiraling. Because deep down I knew if I gave in now, if I turned down this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to keep him comfortable, I'd resent him forever. And worse, I'd resent myself. That night, lying beside him in the dark, I stared at the ceiling while he snored softly, and a single truth echoed inside me. Every major decision in our relationship had gone his way. Where we lived, where we vacationed, what car I drove, even what I wore. I had convinced myself it was compromise, but it was always me folding, always me losing. This job, this chance, it was my line in the sand. I turned onto my side, watching Ethan's face half lit by the glow of his phone charging on the nightstand. My chest ached with the weight of what I'd decided. He thought my silence meant surrender. But in my heart, I whispered a promise to myself I will not let this dream die here. And with that, I closed my eyes, knowing that tomorrow I would email them back. Not to decline, to accept. When Ethan kissed me goodbye the next morning and headed to his usual Friday gym session, I smiled and waved like nothing was wrong, but inside my mind was already racing. The decision had been made. I wasn't turning down the offer. The real question was, how do I leave without letting him destroy me in the process? Ethan wasn't the kind of man to accept losing gracefully. I'd seen the way he handled small slights, snapping at waiters, raging when his favorite protein powder was out of stock, sulking when I spent a night coding instead of curled up next to him. If I told him I was moving, he'd make those final weeks unbearable. I knew it in my bones. So I started quietly preparing my escape. The first step was financial. Our accounts had always been separate, but Ethan knew the login to my main checking account. I opened a new one under my own name, transferred my savings, and rerouted my paychecks. It felt like pulling an IV out of my arm. Terrifying, but freeing. Next came the apartment. Our lease was in Ethan's name, which at first had annoyed me, but now felt like divine providence. I wouldn't be the one on the hook when I left. I went through each room with sticky notes marking what was mine: my desk, my monitor, the books I'd collected since college, the clothes I'd bought with my own money. I left behind the couch, the bed, the TV, even though I'd paid for some of it. I wanted a clean break, not another fight over receipts. The movers were easy enough. My company offered relocation assistance, and they arranged everything. I scheduled them for a Tuesday morning, right when Ethan would be at his weekly spin class with his sister. I pictured it like surgery, quick, precise, done before the patient even woke up. But planning was the easy part. Living with the secret was excruciating. Each night, lying beside Ethan, I'd hear him snore softly and wonder if I was cruel. He believed my silence meant I'd chosen him over my future. Sometimes he'd reach over, drape an arm around me, murmur, "Good girl," as if I'd passed some test. My chest would tighten until I could barely breathe. I told myself over and over, this isn't betrayal, this is survival. The weekend crawled by. Ethan was in high spirits, assuming he'd won. He made brunch reservations, dragged me out shopping, even joked about us getting a dog. Every laugh I faked, every smile I forced, felt like another crack in my ribs. On Monday night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the shadows on the ceiling, my heart hammering. Tomorrow was the day. Tomorrow I'd carve myself out of this life like a prisoner tunneling through stone. Tuesday morning. I left the apartment at my usual time, laptop bag slung over my shoulder. But instead of heading to the office, I walked to a coffee shop 3 blocks away. My hands trembled as I typed a message to the movers, "I'm out. You can go in now." They responded with a thumbs up emoji. For the next 3 hours, I sat at a corner table with a lukewarm latte, pretending to read emails while my phone buzzed with updates. Desk and electronics packed. Bedroom complete. Truck loaded. Each ping was a jolt to my nerves. I imagined Ethan's sneakers lined up by the door, his hoodie draped over the couch, his world staying perfectly still, while mine was being dismantled piece by piece. By noon, it was done. I slipped back to the apartment once the movers left, my heart pounding in my ears. The silence inside was deafening. Empty spaces gaped where my things had been like pulled teeth. I set the letter on the kitchen counter. I'd written it the night before, my hands shaking so badly I had to rewrite it 3 times. Ethan, I know this will feel like betrayal, but it's not. You gave me an ultimatum: love you or take the job. I chose myself. I left everything we shared, furniture, the apartment, even the TV. I covered 2 months' rent, so you'll be fine. Please don't contact me. I hope you find what you're looking for. Beside the note, I left a check and the apartment key. Then I closed the door behind me. My phone exploded before I'd even reached the street. What the hell is happening? Where are you, Wanda? This isn't funny. Answer me. Dozens of texts in rapid-fire bursts. The calls followed one after another until the vibration felt like an earthquake in my pocket. I stared at his name flashing across the screen and felt a mixture of guilt and cold, hard resolve. I didn't answer. What was the point? We'd already had the conversation. He'd made it clear my career, or him. That evening, I sat in my hotel room near the airport, watching the sunset paint the sky in streaks of crimson and gold. My life as I knew it had collapsed in less than 12 hours. My apartment was no longer mine. My boyfriend was no longer mine. Even my silence, once a weapon of compromise, had become a wall I couldn't climb back over. I opened my laptop and typed the words that sealed it. Dear hiring manager, I'm thrilled to accept the offer. I'll be ready to relocate as soon as possible. When I hit send, a strange calm washed over me. Not joy, not yet, but freedom. The next morning, I boarded my flight to California. I pressed my forehead to the window as the plane lifted off, watching the grid of my old city shrink beneath the clouds. Somewhere down there, Ethan was pacing our half-empty apartment, cursing my name, spinning stories about how I'd abandoned him. I could almost hear him rehearsing the words he'd use with his friends with my family, the narrative he'd spin. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Let him." Because for the first time in years, the story was mine to tell. Corporate housing isn't glamorous, but when I unlocked the door to my temporary apartment in California, it felt like a palace. The space was small, just a neat kitchen, a bedroom with blinds that rattled in the breeze, and a balcony that faced the mountains. But it was mine. No arguments about decor, no passive-aggressive comments about the dishes, just mine. The next morning, I walked into my new office, nerves coiled tight in my stomach. And almost immediately, those nerves unraveled into awe. The glass buildings shimmered under the sun, the cafeteria offered everything from poke bowls to espresso shots, and the people actually smiled like they wanted to be there. My manager, a woman named Andrea, welcomed me with such warmth that I almost teared up. Over lunch, she laid out my growth plan, principal engineer, within 3 to 5 years if I kept up my trajectory. It felt surreal, like someone had reached into my dreams and pulled them into daylight. For 2 blissful days, I let myself believe I'd escaped clean. I dove into projects, walked the campus trails at lunch, and stood on my balcony at night with a glass of wine, breathing in the California air. But peace has a short shelf life when you've left someone like Ethan behind. On the 3rd day, my mom called. I could hear the strain in her voice even before she said his name. "Wanda, what on earth happened? Ethan's been here for hours, crying his eyes out. He says you just abandoned him. How could you?" I sat frozen on the edge of my bed, staring at the mountains, as if they might offer me the words I needed. "Mom, we talked. He gave me an ultimatum: turn down the job or lose him. I chose the job. I didn't abandon him." My mother sighed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "He's devastated, Wanda. He says you cleaned out the whole apartment, left him with nothing. He's painting you as..." Her voice trailed heavy with judgment she didn't even try to hide. I clenched my fists. I left the furniture, the TV, everything we bought together. I only took what was mine. I even paid 2 months' rent. But I could tell she wasn't listening. Ethan's tears were louder than my facts. After we hung up, I stared at the ceiling for a long time. I had expected anger from Ethan, but I hadn't expected the betrayal of watching my own family bend toward his story. The next hit came from Jake, my best friend since college. He FaceTimed me, his voice low, eyes darting, as if someone might overhear. "Wanda heads up Ethan's on a warpath. He's telling people you drained the apartment, even took his grandmother's china set. He's calling you heartless, a gold digger, saying you left him with nothing but bills." My jaw dropped. "Are you kidding me? I took my books and my desk. That's it. His grandma's china, I never even touched it." Jake grimaced. "I know, I believe you. But he's convincing a lot of people. His Instagram stories are full of cryptic quotes about betrayal. People are commenting, calling you trash. Just be ready." A sick heat crawled up my neck. It wasn't enough for Ethan to lose me. He needed to bury me. He needed to rewrite the story until I looked like the villain. The following day, I received an email at work. Not from Ethan, from his mother. Subject line: "What you did to my son. Wanda, I cannot believe the cruelty you've shown. Ethan supported you for years. Stood by you when no one else would, and this is how you repay him. You've destroyed him, Wanda. He can barely eat. He can barely sleep. I hope that salary is worth the cost of your soul." I closed my laptop so hard the sound echoed through the apartment. My hands shook not from fear, but from rage. Ethan had turned his mother into his personal messenger. And then the kicker, a second email, this time from his father. Subject line: "Regarding your obligations. Wanda, I'm writing to discuss the situation you've created with my son. He made countless sacrifices for your career ambitions. He turned down opportunities, invested his time and energy, and built his life around your partnership. Your sudden abandonment has left him in a precarious position. While you may not have legal obligations, you certainly have moral ones. I propose the following. You continue paying his rent for 6 months. You provide a settlement of $25,000 for his emotional suffering. You return to mediate a proper ending to this relationship. This is a generous offer considering the circumstances. I read it twice, convinced I was hallucinating. They weren't asking. They were negotiating a breakup settlement like my relationship had been a contract. That night, I called Andrea, my manager, who had already told me the company's legal team covered personal matters for employees. She put me through and I explained everything. The lawyer on the other end actually laughed. Don't respond. Keep the emails. If he escalates, we'll handle it. Relief trickled through me, but it didn't erase the dread pooling in my gut. Ethan wasn't just angry. He was mobilizing. And the people who should have protected me, my mom, even Jake to some degree, were getting tangled in his web. By the end of that week, I got the cruelest cut of all. A text popped up from a number I hadn't seen in years, Daniel, my ex. Hey, Wanda heard what you did to Ethan. That was cold even for you. I thought you'd grown up since we dated. Guess I was wrong. My stomach dropped. Daniel and I had ended amicably years before Ethan. For him to side with Ethan. It made no sense. Until I saw it, Ethan's Instagram post of himself looking tragically noble, captioned, "She left me for money. 4 years gone in a blink. Some people never change." And in the comments, "So sorry this happened to you, Ethan. You deserve better," from Daniel. I sat on the balcony that night, wine glass trembling in my hand. The city lights glittered like stars below me, but I couldn't feel the beauty of it. All I could feel was the weight of betrayal pressing against my ribs. Ethan wasn't just trying to punish me. He was trying to erase me and replace me with a villain version he could parade around to win sympathy. And the terrifying part, people were believing him. I whispered into the night, more vow than words. "Not this time. Not again. You don't get to own the story anymore." By the time the weekend rolled around, I had stopped answering my phone altogether. Every buzz, every notification was another arrow aimed straight at me. It wasn't just Ethan anymore, it was his entire family recruited like soldiers into his campaign. His mother's texts were constant. "He hasn't eaten all day. Do you even care what you've done?" His sister chimed in too. "You owe him closure, Wanda. Don't run from it." And then like clockwork, his father would fire off another email with subject lines so pompous they sounded like legal memos. Failure of good faith. Outstanding moral debts. Settlement proposal. Revision. Each message demanded more than the last. First, it was 6 months' rent. Then $25,000. Then, unbelievably, $50,000. Plus the car, which was registered in my name. I sat at my kitchen counter, rereading one of his father's emails, while the smell of stir-fried vegetables filled the air. My chopsticks hovered untouched. The words blurred together, but the message was clear. Pay up or we'll ruin you. It should have scared me. And maybe it did deep down. But mostly it made me furious. They weren't asking for understanding. They weren't seeking truth. They were shaking me down like I was some ATM machine with a conscience. I forwarded the latest email to the legal team my company had assigned me. An hour later, I got a call from a sharp-voiced attorney named Michael. "Ms. Warner." I reviewed the correspondence. "These demands are baseless. If he continues, we can issue a cease and desist. For now, document everything and do not engage directly." His confidence was a lifeline. I leaned back in my chair, finally exhaling. "So I don't owe them anything." "Not a cent," he said firmly. "If anything, you've been more than generous." I wanted to believe him, and for a few hours I did. Then came the next twist, one I hadn't seen coming. It started with a ping on my phone, a screenshot from Jake. My best friend had been keeping tabs on Ethan's Instagram to warn me when things got ugly. This time it was a photo of Ethan, head bowed dramatically, in a dimly lit bar, captioned, "When the person you gave everything to stabs you in the back. 4 years wasted." The comments underneath made my stomach twist. Words like monster, heartless, gold digger. And then nestled among the sympathy, a comment from Daniel. "Hang in there, man. She pulled the same stuff on me. You'll get through it." Daniel, my ex, the boy I dated in my early 20s, the one who broke things off because we wanted different futures, but who had always treated me with kindness. For a moment, I thought it had to be fake. Maybe a bot, maybe a coincidence. But then my phone buzzed again, this time with a text. "Daniel, hey Wanda. Just wanted you to know I see who you really are now. Ethan deserves better." My throat tightened. Ethan hadn't just turned my family against me. He was rewriting history, dragging my past into his lies. I typed a reply, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. No matter what I said, it would sound like defensiveness, and Ethan would twist it. So instead, I put my phone face down and stared at the ceiling until my vision blurred. The following Monday, Ethan's father sent yet another email. This time it wasn't just demands. It was threats. "Wanda, if you do not agree to mediation within 7 days, we will pursue all legal avenues available to us. We will make sure the truth about your character is known not only to friends and family, but to your new employer as well. Consider carefully how much your reputation is worth." I forwarded it to Michael. His response was almost gleeful. Good, they've crossed into intimidation. Makes our case stronger if they try anything. But his calm didn't soothe me, because I knew Ethan well enough to understand something Michael didn't. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. Ethan couldn't stand the idea that I had walked away, that I had chosen a life he couldn't dictate. That night I walked down to the pier near my apartment. The water glimmered under the moonlight, and the salty breeze tangled my hair. For the first time since leaving, I let the tears fall. Not just for the betrayal, but for the years I had lost. 4 years of folding myself smaller so Ethan could feel bigger. 4 years of mistaking control for love. And now, even from hundreds of miles away, he was still trying to script my life. I whispered into the wind, my voice raw, "You don't get to write me anymore. You don't." The next morning, I woke to another text, this time from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, Wanda, it's Sarah. We need to talk about what you did to Ethan." Sarah. Not my ex, not family, but someone even worse, his ex. The one I knew he still followed on social media. The one he swore he was just friends with. I stared at the message, a bitter laugh catching in my throat. Of course. Ethan had pulled her into this too. He was building an army piece by piece until I stood alone. But here's the thing about standing alone, it's terrifying at first. And then you realize you're finally free to stand tall. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked the number, opened my laptop, and dove into the new project Andrea had assigned me. A cutting-edge AI module that could change the way people interacted with technology. Work that mattered. Work that was mine. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something that surprised me. Not fear, not anger, resolve. If Ethan wanted a war, he'd get one, but not the kind he expected. I wouldn't fight him with lies or guilt or manipulation. I'd fight by living a life so full, so unshakably mine, that his entire campaign would collapse under its own pettiness. And maybe, just maybe, he'd finally realize the truth. He hadn't lost me to money. He'd lost me to himself. 2 weeks passed. I thought maybe, just maybe, Ethan had run out of steam. The texts slowed. The emails from his parents became less frequent. For the first time since leaving, I let myself breathe. That night, I stayed late at the office, lost in code. When I finally shut down my computer and stepped into the parking garage, exhaustion hit me like a wave. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, the air smelled faintly of oil and concrete. And then I froze. He was standing by my car. Ethan. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might be sick. His hair was freshly styled, his shirt unbuttoned, one notch too low, cologne heavy in the air. He looked like he was going on a date, not ambushing an ex in a parking garage. "Wanda." His voice was soft, almost pleading. "We need to talk." I tightened my grip on my bag. "No, we don't." He stepped closer. "I flew all the way here. The least you can do is hear me out." Against my better judgment, I scanned the empty garage. Too quiet, too isolated. My pulse raced. Fine. Coffee shop. Public place. We sat across from each other at a crowded cafe down the street, the hum of conversation buzzing around us like a shield. Ethan stirred his latte with unnecessary precision, as if drawing courage from the swirl. "I've been thinking," he began, eyes flicking up to mine. Maybe I was too hasty. Maybe Silicon Valley could be an adventure. I blinked. An adventure? He leaned forward, his smile rehearsed. "Yeah. I mean, there are so many opportunities here. I could start my wellness blog. Maybe even open a boutique gym. You were right, this place has potential." And there it was. He hadn't flown across the country because he missed me. He'd done the math on my new salary. I shook my head. Ethan, we're not together anymore. His face shifted hope to disbelief, disbelief to anger. "You can't be serious. 4 years, Wanda. You don't just throw away 4 years. "You're right," I said quietly. "You don't. Which is why I couldn't believe you were willing to end it over a job." He slammed his hand on the table, rattling his cup. "I didn't end anything. You did. You abandoned me." I leaned forward, voice sharp. "You told me to choose between you and my career. I chose my career. That's not abandonment. That's me refusing to live small for you." His jaw worked, teeth grinding. Then he shifted tactics. "I was testing you, to see if you really loved me. And you failed." I stared at him, incredulous. Adults don't test each other, Ethan. They communicate. What followed was 20 excruciating minutes of whiplash. First came guilt. "I supported you through everything. You wouldn't even have this job without me." Then anger. "You're selfish. You'll die alone with your laptop." Then bargaining. "We could do long distance, just until I figure things out here." Then victimhood. "You've ruined my life, Wanda. Do you even care?" Finally, the lowest card seduction, he reached across the table, his hand brushing mine. Remember how good we were together, you and me? Unstoppable. I pulled my hand back like his touch burned. When none of it worked, he exhaled sharply, his mask cracking. Fine. If you won't take me back, then you owe me. I laughed, a bitter sound that startled even me. Owe you for what? For humiliating me. For wasting 4 years. For destroying my reputation. Everyone knows you left me. You made me look pathetic. My eyes narrowed. Your reputation is ruined because you lied to everyone about what happened, not because of me. His expression hardened. I want $50,000. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. What? 50,000. For emotional damages, lost opportunities, the fact that I had to restructure my life because of your selfishness. I burst out laughing, unable to stop. Heads turned at nearby tables. You've lost your mind. His voice dropped to a venomous hiss. Then I'll sue you. For what? Breach of implied contract. We had plans. Marriage, a family. You can't just walk away from that without consequences. I leaned back, folding my arms. Good luck with that. No court in this country is going to award you money because your girlfriend broke up with you. Ethan's face turned red, his hand trembling as he grabbed his cup. You'll regret this, Wanda. When you're alone in your fancy apartment, you'll realize what you lost. I stood gathering my bag. My voice was steady now, cold as steel. I already know what I lost. Control. Manipulation. Someone who saw me as a wallet with legs. I'm good with that loss. He wasn't done. As I turned to leave, his voice cut through the cafe loud enough for everyone to hear. Sarah was right about you. I froze. Sarah, his ex, the one who had texted me blaming me. I turned slowly. Sarah, who's been married for 3 years. That Sarah, the one you convinced to lie about me. For the first time that night, his mask slipped completely. His mouth opened, then shut. I gave him a smile, sharp enough to cut. Tell Sarah's husband I said hi. I'm sure he'll love to hear about your little games. The color drained from his face. I walked out into the cool night air, my heart hammering, but lighter than it had been in months. Because in that moment, I realized something crystal clear. Ethan hadn't come to win me back. He'd come to reclaim power, and he failed. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one folding. I was the one walking away. After that night at the cafe, I thought Ethan might finally retreat. He'd tried every tactic: guilt, anger, bargaining, even extortion, and all he'd earned was a very public humiliation. But people like Ethan don't retreat. They escalate. The first sign came the very next morning. My phone buzzed with screenshots from Jake, who had reluctantly agreed to keep an eye on Ethan's social media for me. Ethan's Instagram story posted at 2 a.m., a picture of our old apartment, now cluttered with empty pizza boxes and laundry piles. Caption: when the person you supported through their broke years abandons you the second they make it. Financial abuse is real. Another post showed him staring dramatically into the distance with text overlay. Love means nothing when there's a paycheck involved. The comments were vicious. Dozens of his friends and even some of mine called me a user, a narcissist, a gold digger. But then came the one that made me laugh in disbelief. If anyone knows a good lawyer, DM me. 4 years together should mean something legally right. Jake's text underneath the screenshot was blunt. He's trying to get alimony from a girlfriend. Bro, he's lost it. I rubbed my temples, half horrified, half amused. Common law marriage wasn't even recognized in our state. Ethan's delusion was reaching cosmic levels. By day 4, the circus had grown. My phone lit up with an email, not from Ethan this time, but from my HR department. Subject: external complaint regarding employee conduct. My stomach lurched. I opened it to find a link to a LinkedIn post Ethan had written. When tech companies reward selfishness, relationships die. My ex abandoned me for money, and now she's celebrated for it. Silicon Valley steals not just talent, but souls. #financial abuse. #toxic tech. He had tagged my company. I marched straight to Andrea's office, heart pounding. She read the post, snorted, and called HR herself. Minutes later, we were laughing together as HR informed me they'd already issued a cease and desist. Don't worry, Andrea said, patting my arm. This isn't your shame. It's his. Keep doing your work. We've got your back. The knot in my chest loosened. For once, I wasn't alone in the crossfire. Meanwhile, Ethan's offline life wasn't faring any better. According to Jake, his part-time gig at the boutique had fired him. He'd been missing shifts, too busy posting trauma survivor content to show up for actual work. His parents, once so eager to demand money from me, were now whispering about his bad decisions. And then came the most pathetic move yet, a GoFundMe campaign titled Starting Over Surviving Financial Abandonment. The description painted him as a man left penniless after years of sacrifice. The goal, $20,000. The result, $45, donated by his mother. The campaign was reported for fraud and taken down within 48 hours. I wish I could say I felt vindicated, but mostly I felt tired. Tired of watching Ethan set himself on fire just to send me smoke signals. Tired of being dragged into his theater of victimhood. So I did the only thing that made sense. I stopped looking. I told Jake not to send me updates unless Ethan did something legally threatening. I blocked every fake account Ethan made to reach me. I muted his name on every platform. Instead, I poured myself into the life I was building. And what a life it was becoming. My company moved me into a sleek apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the bay. At night, the city lights glittered like scattered jewels. On weekends, I hiked the mountain trails, lungs burning, heart soaring. At work, I thrived. Andrea pushed me into high-visibility projects. My team respected me, sought my input, made me feel like I belonged. And then there was Maya. She was a fellow engineer, sharp-witted and warm with a laugh that carried across the cafeteria. We started as colleagues, grabbing coffee after long debugging sessions, then dinners, then late-night walks where conversations slipped into confessions. When our hands brushed one evening, neither of us pulled away. For the first time in years, I felt something that wasn't compromise, wasn't calculation, just connection. We disclosed the relationship to HR by the book, and they gave us their blessing. Suddenly, the weight that had been crushing me for months lifted. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. But Ethan wasn't done trying to haunt me. 2 weeks later, my mom called. Her voice was shaky. "Wanda, he showed up here, demanded your new address, said he needed to collect his belongings." I gritted my teeth. "Mom, I didn't take anything of his." "I know," she said softly. "I told him that." And then he admitted it. Said he just wanted to see your place to prove you were living beyond your means without him. Silence stretched between us. Finally, my mother whispered, "Wanda, I owe you an apology. I see now what you were dealing with. I should have believed you sooner." Tears stung my eyes. "Thanks, Mom. Better late than never." She sighed. I gave him $20 for gas and told him to lose my number. I laughed through the lump in my throat. That's my mom. That night, standing on my balcony with Maya beside me, I thought about everything Ethan had tried to take my reputation, my peace, my story. And I realized something simple but powerful. He hadn't ruined me. He had freed me. By showing me who he really was, he gave me the courage to stop folding, to stop shrinking, to finally step into the life I'd been chasing